Far beyond the bright, bustling centers of the galaxy, where the great empire's fleets sailed proudly and its leaders enjoyed endless power, there was a place almost forgotten by time itself, a dark and silent star system where no ship dared to wander for centuries. Here, orbiting a dead sun, lay the graveyard of humanity, or so everyone believed. Humanity had vanished long ago, their mighty warships lost in myths and old tales whispered only by historians and dreamers. But beneath the thick layers of dust and silence, something stirred. Deep inside a cavernous hangar hidden beneath the surface of a barren moon, the cold metal hull of a human warship groaned as its power core flickered to life for the first time in 1,000 years. The ship's ancient systems hummed faintly, old circuits sparking back to function as a forgotten AI slowly woke from its long sleep. Outside, sensors blinked on, scanning the empty void, hungry for signs of life or danger. The crew's memories, stored in crystal-like data cores, began to stream back, patchy and confused, fragments of battles fought, of orders obeyed, of a mission that had been interrupted. No one knew why the ship reactivated now, or who had caused it. All the surrounding stars seemed to hold their breath as the warship sent a soft pulse of energy into the black, a signal lost in the noise of the galaxy, yet impossible to ignore, by those who had learned to listen for the unexpected. Far away, on the Empire's command station, orbiting a lush, thriving planet, officers in sleek uniforms stared at their consoles, their faces tightening as they watched an unknown energy spike rise sharply on their monitors. Messages flashed across their screens. Unidentified signal detected. Energy signature matches pre-imperial human tech. Warning, possible threat detected. Panic flickered in the eyes of the fleet commanders, who had grown comfortable, ruling unchallenged for centuries. Their history books said humans were extinct, wiped out, vanished into legend. But this signal told a different story, a story that could undo everything the Empire had built. Meanwhile, across the galaxy and distant worlds, traders, mercenaries, and explorers paused as they picked up strange transmissions from deep space, wondering if old stories were coming back to life. As the Empire scrambled to understand the threat, the human ship, nicknamed the Resurgent by its AI, silently prepared for what was to come. Its weapon systems, dormant but intact, began calibrating, its engines warmed by an ancient but powerful fusion core. Outside, the empty space seemed to grow darker, as if the galaxy itself sensed the return of a force that could change everything. No one knew what had awoken the Resurgent, or why the humans had returned now, but one thing was clear. The Empire's long, peaceful reign was about to be shattered, and the galaxy would never be the same again. As the signal from the human warship continued to pulse through the emptiness of space, the Empire wasted no time. From their vast command station, they ordered a fleet of sleek, deadly cruisers to investigate the source of this unexpected energy. The commanders were confident. After all, the Empire's warships had ruled the stars for centuries, and the long-lost humans were thought to be nothing but a memory, a faint echo of a past era. Yet, as the lead cruiser, the Vanguard, approached the coordinates of the signal, a strange feeling crept over its captain, an uneasy whisper that this mission was unlike any before. The ship's sensors picked up the massive outline of the ancient human warship, its hull scarred and darkened by time, but its shape unmistakable and proud against the starry background. Suddenly, without warning, the human ship moved, gliding with an unexpected speed and grace that baffled the Empire's technology. The Vanguard tried to send a warning back to the fleet, but before the message could be finished, a beam of energy shot out from the human ship, striking the cruiser's shields and knocking them offline. Alarms blared inside the Vanguard as systems began to fail one by one and the crew scrambled to respond. The human ship's weapons fired again and again with deadly precision, each shot disabling critical parts of the cruiser but carefully avoiding total destruction. There was a clear purpose behind the attack, a message to be sent without unnecessary loss of life. The captain of the Vanguard realized they faced not just a ship, but a force that knew the Empire's strengths and weaknesses, a force that had waited in the shadows to return. Across the fleet, other cruisers tried to react, but confusion spread, as their leader was crippled in moments, their formations breaking apart. On the bridge of the human ship, The AI coordinated every move, guiding ancient weapons and shields with an intelligence both ruthless and calculated. The humans, though, long gone from the galaxy's stage, were proving they had not lost their edge. As the Vanguard drifted powerless, its crew stared out at the looming silhouette of the warship that had appeared like a ghost from the past, a living nightmare for the Empire. The battle was brief, but unforgettable. Before the Empire's fleet could organize a proper response, the human warship vanished into the darkness of space, leaving behind a trail of disabled ships and shattered confidence. Back on the Empire's command station, the news arrived like a thunderclap. The humans had returned, and their warships were deadly beyond anything the Empire had imagined. The leaders argued fiercely, some calling for immediate total war, others fearing the cost of underestimating this new threat. Meanwhile, scattered throughout the galaxy, alien races who had once been subjugated by the Empire began to whisper of hope and rebellion, watching the stars for the signs of humanity's next move. The first encounter was over, but the war had just begun. The human warship had sent a clear message. They were back, and their power was not to be ignored. The Empire's worst nightmare was no longer a legend. It was alive, moving through the dark, ready to change the balance of power forever. The news of the human warship's sudden reappearance spread like wildfire through the galaxy, shaking every corner of the Empire's vast domain and beyond, and with it, the foundation of what everyone believed about history and power began to crumble. At first, many dismissed the reports as exaggerations or misinformation, the desperate lies of a few panicked commanders unable to explain the devastating loss of the Vanguard and other ships damaged in the first encounter. But as more data arrived, energy, readings, sensor images, even faint communications intercepted from the human ship, it became clear that the humans were not only real, but a serious threat, something the galaxy had not seen for centuries. The Empire's leaders met in their grand halls, voices rising in alarm and disbelief as strategists pored over ancient archives, desperately searching for answers about the humans and their lost technology. The historians who once treated humanity as a long-dead relic were suddenly in high demand, their dusty tomes and forgotten knowledge turning into crucial guides for understanding this new enemy. Outside the walls of the Empire's capitals, ordinary citizens watched the skies nervously, rumors sparking fear, curiosity, and excitement all at once. Traders paused their routes, mercenaries reconsidered their loyalties, and spies from rival factions slipped through the shadows to learn whatever they could about the humans who had returned from the past. Across the colonies, some whispered that this was a chance for freedom, a moment to break the Empire's iron grip, while others feared the violence that such a war would bring. In the deepest parts of space, hidden in asteroid fields and forgotten outposts, other ancient human warships began to stir, their dormant AI units awakening, systems humming back to life after centuries of silence. Unknown to the Empire, humanity had left behind more than just one ship, and the galaxy was about to witness a resurgence unlike any before. The human crew aboard the Resurgent worked tirelessly to restore full functionality to their vessel, studying their surroundings and preparing for the challenges ahead. Memories were still fragmented, but one thing was certain. They had a mission, a purpose to protect themselves and uncover the truth behind their disappearance. The AI, a voice, calm and steady, reminded them of their origins and responsibilities, its tone both comforting and urgent. Meanwhile, the Empire scrambled to develop new weapons and defenses, commissioning their finest engineers and scientists to create countermeasures against the human technology that had so thoroughly outmatched their own. Entire research divisions were redirected to this urgent task, working day and night in secret labs. Yet, for all their efforts, the humans' advanced weaponry and tactics continued to surprise and outmatch Imperial forces. Outside the military world, whispers of human resilience sparked changes among the Empire's subjects. Some alien races, tired of oppression, began to see the humans as symbols of hope and rebellion. Secret meetings and alliances formed, and the galaxy felt the first tremors of unrest in decades. The human presence was no longer just a military problem. It had become a beacon of possibility, a spark threatening to ignite long-simmering tensions. On distant planets, Individuals and groups who once bowed to the Empire's rule started to question their loyalty, inspired by stories of the human warships that struck fear into the hearts of the mighty. Intelligence reports flooded the Empire's command centers, revealing a galaxy waking from its complacency. The Empire's grip was loosening, and every leader knew that this new chapter could mean the end of their reign, unless they acted decisively. Yet the humans did not rush blindly into war. Instead, they moved carefully, choosing their battles, using stealth and precision to avoid overwhelming force. The Resurgent sent out encrypted signals to other ancient human vessels, hoping to reunite their scattered forces before the storm fully broke. As the galaxy watched with bated breath, the human warship became a symbol not only of destruction, but of survival, of a forgotten race ready to reclaim its place among the stars. The Empire, once arrogant and unchallenged, now faced a nightmare, rising from its past, a nightmare fueled by the very determination and strength that had made humanity legends. In the darkness of space, a new war was beginning, and the fate of billions hung in the balance, waiting to see whether the galaxy would fall under tyranny or rise with the unexpected power of the humans who refused to be forgotten. Deep within the hidden recesses of the Resurgent, as the ship hummed softly beneath the endless black of space, the human crew gathered around a flickering hollow projector, watching and listening as ancient logs began to unlock themselves from encrypted memory banks, revealing truths long buried and secrets that weighed heavily on their mission. These logs spoke of a war that had nearly destroyed humanity, a conflict so terrible that it forced their ancestors into hiding, retreating from the stars to wait for a time when they could return and reclaim their place in the galaxy. And as the crew absorbed the stories, the weight of history pressed down on them, revealing how the humans had not been defeated by the Empire, but by a shadowy enemy lurking beyond known space, a force so dark and terrible it had made their ancestors disappear without a trace. This knowledge changed everything, for it meant the Empire itself was only a part of a much larger puzzle, a dangerous game of survival and power where humans had once fought not just to conquer but to protect. Meanwhile, the Empire's leaders grew desperate, their fear transforming into ruthless determination as they launched vast campaigns to locate and destroy every trace of the reawakened human warships, sending fleets into sectors where old human colonies had once thrived, wiping out anything that could even hint at a human resurgence. But the humans, guided by their ancient wisdom and fierce survival instincts, used guerrilla tactics, striking swiftly and disappearing into the void, their knowledge of forgotten wormholes and hidden paths giving them an edge their pursuers could not match. As the warship moved silently through star systems long abandoned, the crew struggled with their fragmented memories, trying to understand the reasons behind their ancestors' retreat and the threats that still might wait in the shadows beyond. The stars, all while sensing the growing tension in the galaxy and the rising storm that their presence had unleashed. Unknown to the Empire, other human warships were awakening, scattered relics with AI still operational, each carrying pieces of the past and hopes for the future, ready to join the fight. And as these ships began to communicate in secret, a network was forming, one that could challenge the Empire's dominance and uncover the greater threat that had forced humanity into hiding. Within the Empire's command halls, paranoia spread as spies and saboteurs increased their activity, trying to discover the humans' secrets, but often falling prey to the cunning and advanced technology of the human forces, whose knowledge of electronic warfare and ancient defenses made them ghost-like hunters in the void. As the humans probed deeper into their past, they discovered that the shadows that once threatened to destroy them had not vanished, but were still out there, waiting and watching, perhaps even manipulating the events that now gripped the galaxy. And this chilling realization pushed the crew to prepare not only to fight the Empire, but to face whatever dark force might emerge from the forgotten corners of space. Alliances shifted in this tense time, with some alien factions seeking to ally with the humans in hopes of freeing themselves from the Empire's grip, while others hesitated, fearful of becoming pawns in a conflict far larger than they understood. And the galaxy seemed poised on the edge of chaos, where every decision could mean survival or destruction. Through it all, the human warship Resurgent remained a symbol of hope and resilience, its crew determined to uncover the truth behind their disappearance and ready to face the shadows of the past that threatened the future of all who lived among the stars, setting the stage for a battle not just for power, but for the very soul of the galaxy. The galaxy had been stunned by the sudden reappearance of the human warship, and now the balance of power was beginning to shift in unexpected ways. The Resurgent and its crew, once lost to time, had steadily regained their strength and confidence. No longer content to hide or simply evade the Empire's relentless pursuit, the humans prepared to take the fight directly to the heart of their oppressors. It began with a bold plan, a daring raid on one of the Empire's largest supply depots located deep within contested space. The Empire's forces had grown complacent, believing humanity was a fading legend, but the humans had studied their enemies' routines and weaknesses carefully. Using a combination of stealth technology and superior tactics honed from centuries of survival, the Resurgent and its small fleet slipped past enemy patrols and struck with surgical precision. The supply depot was crippled within hours, vital resources destroyed or captured, leaving the Empire scrambling to respond. The victory sent shockwaves through the galaxy. News of the successful raid spread quickly, inspiring hope among oppressed worlds and striking fear into the hearts of Imperial commanders. For the first time in generations, it seemed possible that the Empire might not be invincible. Across numerous star systems, alien factions that had long lived under Imperial rule began to reconsider their loyalties. Some sent secret envoys to contact the humans, offering their ships and soldiers in exchange for freedom from the Empire's iron grip. The Resurgent's captain, a determined and sharp-minded leader named Commander Alara, knew the importance of these fragile alliances. Carefully, she negotiated with representatives of various species, blending human strength with alien resources and intelligence. Together, they formed a loose but growing coalition, small at first, but gaining power and influence daily. Meanwhile, the Empire was reeling from the raid and the rapidly changing political landscape. High-ranking officials debated furiously, some calling for harsh retaliation, others warning that the humans could not be underestimated. The Empire's military machine, once slow and bureaucratic, began to shift into high gear. More fleets were deployed to hunt down human warships and their allies, but every encounter seemed to end with the humans narrowly escaping or turning the tables on their pursuers. The Resurgent's crew grew more confident, their knowledge of ancient human technology and battle tactics giving them an edge. They learned to use the galaxy's hidden wormholes and secret passages to move quickly and strike unpredictably. Imperial ships, despite their numbers, struggled to keep up. As the tide turned, small but significant battles erupted across contested space. Human-led forces ambushed supply convoys, sabotaged communication arrays, and freed planets from Imperial control. Each victory was a blow to the Empire's prestige and a spark for rebellion. Citizens on Imperial worlds began to question their leaders' promises of peace and security, wondering if they had been blind to the true threat in their midst. Propaganda campaigns tried to paint the humans as dangerous rebels, but stories of their courage and skill spread faster, sowing unrest and doubt. In the shadow of these events, the humans uncovered more ancient warships, hidden in remote corners of the galaxy, their AI crews awakening as if called by some unseen force. Slowly, the human fleet grew, not just in numbers but in strength and purpose. Each ship brought new capabilities and history, adding pieces to the puzzle of humanity's past and future. The Resurgent became the fleet's flagship, a symbol of hope and defiance that inspired all who saw it. Yet with every gain, the stakes rose higher. The Empire unleashed its most feared commanders, battle-hardened veterans tasked with crushing the human resurgence. Clashes between fleets became more frequent and brutal. The Resurgent and its allies had to adapt quickly, employing hit-and-run tactics and using the galaxy's terrain to their advantage. Commander Alara led with a steady hand, knowing that victory would not come from sheer force alone, but from strategy, unity, and the unyielding will of a people determined to survive. In one particularly daring mission, the human fleet struck at the heart of an Imperial armory, destroying stockpiles of advanced weapons and crippling the enemy's ability to wage war on several fronts. The explosion illuminated the darkness of space like a beacon, signaling to all that humanity was not only back but ready to reclaim its legacy. The Empire responded with fury, sending massive reinforcements and tightening their grip on loyal systems. But the momentum had shifted. More worlds openly defied Imperial rule, and even some of the Empire's own commanders began to question their orders. The galaxy was waking from a long slumber of fear and control, and the humans were at the center of that awakening. The tide had turned, and the future was uncertain. Yet amid the growing chaos, one thing was clear. Humanity was no longer hiding in the shadows. They were rising, stronger and more united than ever, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. In their fight for freedom and survival, the galaxy was no longer the quiet expanse it once was. After months of skirmishes, raids, and fragile alliances, the human resurgence had become a storm the Empire could no longer ignore. The warships of humanity, once ghosts in the void, now burned with renewed fire and purpose. Commander Alara stood on the bridge of the Resurgent, her gaze fixed on the holographic map pulsing with clusters of fleets and contested worlds. The data was grim. Imperial forces had grown more ruthless, their fleets larger and their tactics more brutal. But the humans had learned, adapted, and found strength not just in their technology, but in their unity and determination. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath, awaiting the moment when the reckoning would come, when the clash of titanic forces would decide the fate of billions. Alara knew this moment was fast approaching. Intelligence reports had confirmed a massive Imperial fleet was gathering near the border of the contested sectors, preparing for a campaign meant to crush the human forces and their allies once and for all. This fleet, known as the Iron Tide, was commanded by Admiral Vexar, a veteran of countless battles and a man feared for his cold efficiency and brutal methods. The Iron Tide's numbers were staggering: dozens of dreadnoughts, hundreds of cruisers, and thousands of smaller ships, all armed with the latest weapons designed to overwhelm any resistance. The Empire had spared no expense. They intended to wipe out the human resurgence before it could spread further. Yet for all its power, the Iron Tide was vulnerable. Its size made it slow and difficult to maneuver, and it depended on tight formations and supply lines that could be targeted. The humans had spent months preparing for this very confrontation, coordinating with their allies and gathering intelligence on the fleet's movements. Across the galaxy, whispers spread of the coming battle, the reckoning, and worlds braced themselves for the storm. On the Resurgent, the crew worked tirelessly. Engineers tuned ancient weapons and shields, while strategists debated countless plans and contingencies. Alara convened with leaders from the allied species, each bringing unique skills and ships to the fight. The coalition was fragile but determined, bound by a shared desire to end imperial tyranny and reclaim freedom. As they plotted their approach, they knew they could not match the Empire's numbers in a head-on fight. Instead, they planned to use guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run strikes, and ambushes in asteroid fields and nebulae to weaken and divide the Iron Tide before the decisive battle. Meanwhile, within the Empire's command structure, confidence was high but brittle. Admiral Vexar prepared his fleet with cold precision, unaware of the traps being set. His advisors warned him of the humans' unpredictable tactics, but Vexar's belief in overwhelming force was unshaken. To him, the humans were relics of a forgotten time, lacking the discipline and unity to face the Empire's might. Yet, even as he planned, cracks appeared within the Empire's ranks. Some commanders questioned the harsh treatment of conquered worlds, fearing the rebellion was fueled as much by cruelty as by human resurgence. Secret whispers spoke of spies and saboteurs within the fleet, feeding information to the humans and undermining the campaign. As the Iron Tide moved closer to the contested sectors, the tension grew unbearable. Small skirmishes broke out on the fringes, fleets clashing in dark corners of space, pilots fighting desperately in dogfights that felt like the final moments of a dying star. The human forces, using superior knowledge of the terrain and stealth technology, inflicted significant damage, slipping away before the Empire's larger ships could react. These victories raised morale and spread hope across the coalition, but the price was high. Many brave crews were lost, and the Resurgent itself took damage that required urgent repairs. The climax came when the two great fleets finally confronted each other near the dense asteroid belt known as the Shattered Veil. Here, the humans planned to strike with everything they had. The battlefield was chaotic and deadly. Explosions lit the void as energy beams tore through shields and hulls. The humans fought fiercely, using hit-and-run tactics that frustrated the Imperial commanders. Mines hidden in asteroid fields detonated unexpectedly, crippling key ships in the Iron Tide. Yet Admiral Vexar was relentless, ordering his forces to tighten their formations and bring their overwhelming firepower to bear. The battle raged. For hours, a brutal test of strength and will. Amid the chaos, Alara led a daring assault on the Empire's command ship, aiming to disrupt the fleet's coordination. The Resurgent and its escorts slipped through enemy lines, dodging missiles and energy blasts. Inside the command ship, elite human boarding parties fought hand-to-hand with Imperial Marines, the air thick with tension and determination. Alara's team disabled the ship's communication arrays and destroyed critical systems before retreating with heavy losses. The blow sent shock waves through the Iron Tide, sowing confusion and panic. With their command disrupted, the Imperial fleet faltered. The humans seized the moment, pressing their advantage to break the Iron Tide into smaller, vulnerable groups. Allied fleets joined the assault, striking at exposed supply ships and reinforcements. Slowly but surely, the tide turned. The Iron Tide suffered massive losses, and its retreat became a desperate race to survive. When the dust settled, the galaxy had changed. The Empire's greatest fleet was shattered, its power diminished. The human resurgence had proven that even the mightiest forces could be challenged with courage, unity, and cunning. News of the victory spread rapidly, sparking uprisings and bolstering the coalition's ranks. Worlds once loyal to the Empire began to openly defy its rule, inspired by the humans' bravery. Yet the war was far from over. The Empire would rebuild and retaliate, and darker threats still lurked in the shadows of the past. But for the first time in generations, hope burned bright across the stars. Humanity's tide had turned, and the reckoning was only the beginning of a new era where the fate of the galaxy would be decided by those brave enough to fight for freedom. The shattered remnants of the Iron Tide fleet limped away from the battlefield, burning and broken, their proud banners tattered and trailing smoke through the cold darkness of space. Across the galaxy, news of the devastating loss echoed like thunder, shaking the foundations of the Empire's control. The victory of the humans and their allies was more than a military triumph. It was a symbol, a spark igniting a fire of rebellion and hope that threatened to engulf the Empire. Commander Alara stood on the bridge of the Resurgent, her expression a mix of fatigue and fierce determination. The battle had cost them dearly, but it had also proven their strength and unity. Still, Alara knew the victory was only the first step. The Empire, wounded but far from defeated, would gather its forces again, and the coming storm would be fiercer and more ruthless than anything the galaxy had seen before. Back in the Imperial capital, Emperor Kalen's face was etched with anger and disbelief. The defeat was not just a setback, it was a threat to his rule and the stability of his empire. His advisors, cloaked in their flowing robes and bearing the insignia of power, argued over the best course of action. Some urged a swift and brutal retaliation to crush the rebels before their rebellion could grow, while others whispered of more insidious tactics, spying, sabotage, and political manipulation designed to sow discord within the human coalition. Kalen listened silently, his mind racing. He knew the humans were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for something greater, their freedom, their right to exist. The Emperor was determined to destroy that hope, whatever the cost. Meanwhile, the human coalition worked to strengthen their alliance. Worlds that had once feared the Empire's wrath now openly welcomed the humans and their allies, offering ships, soldiers, and resources to the cause. Alara traveled between these worlds, meeting with leaders of diverse species, each with their own histories, cultures, and grudges against the Empire. She listened carefully, understanding that unity was fragile and required constant care. Trust had to be earned, and the coalition had to present a united front against the looming threat. Under her guidance, they began training together, sharing technology and tactics, preparing for the inevitable next phase of the war. But even as they built their strength, shadows crept through the ranks. Imperial spies had infiltrated the coalition, their agents skilled in deception and sabotage. Several key supply lines were disrupted, and a vital outpost on the edge of human-controlled space was overrun in a surprise attack. The humans realized that the Empire was not only fighting with ships and weapons, but also with secrets and lies. Trust became harder to maintain, suspicion grew, and the fragile bonds between allies were tested. Alara worked tirelessly to root out the spies and rebuild confidence, knowing that internal division could be as deadly as any external enemy. In the midst of this turmoil, strange signals were detected from deep within uncharted space. Encrypted transmissions unlike anything the humans or their allies had ever encountered. Some believed these signals were a warning. Others thought they might be a call for help. Ilara ordered her best scientists and cryptographers to decipher the messages, hoping for clues that might reveal the nature of the dark force that had once driven humanity into hiding. The answers were slow to come, but each breakthrough revealed fragments of a terrible history, of ancient enemies, forgotten wars, and technology so powerful it could change the course of the conflict. As the coalition prepared for the next confrontation, rumors spread of a powerful weapon being developed in secret by the Empire, something that could tip the scales back in their favor and crush the rebellion in a single blow. This weapon, hidden deep within the Empire's core worlds, was shrouded in mystery, but its destructive potential was undeniable. Intelligence suggested it was nearly complete, and the humans knew they had to act quickly to prevent its deployment. Ilara proposed a daring mission, a strike deep into enemy territory to destroy the weapon before it could be used. The plan was risky, the chances of success slim, but the alternative was far worse. Gathering a select team of the bravest pilots and soldiers, Ilara prepared the Resurgent and its escort for the most dangerous mission yet. The journey to the heart of the Empire would take them through hostile space, past patrols and traps set to stop any intruders. But the humans had come too far to turn back now. As the fleet moved out, the weight of their mission pressed heavily on every soul aboard. The galaxy watched and waited, the rising storm of war gathering strength, ready to break upon the shores of fate. The humans and their allies had come farther than anyone had dared to imagine. The great fleet led by the Resurgent sailed through the blackness of space, their destination the very heart of the Empire's might. A heavily fortified world known as Aegis Prime, rumored to house the secret weapon that could destroy their hopes forever. Commander Ilara stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the stars ahead, but her mind heavy with the weight of the mission. They carried the future of countless lives on their shoulders. The crew moved with quiet determination, knowing that failure was not an option. Every system was checked and rechecked, every weapon primed and ready. This would be the battle to end the war. As the fleet neared Aegis Prime, sensors began to pick up the full might of the Empire's defenses. Massive orbital platforms bristled with weaponry, swarms of patrol ships flitted through the shadows, and energy shields shimmered around the planet like a second atmosphere. The Empire had prepared for invasion, and this was their fortress. But Ilara was not intimidated. Years of fighting, losses, and victories had taught her that strength came from more than firepower. It came from courage, from unity, and from the will to fight for what was right. She issued the orders: stealth ships to slip past patrols and disable key defense systems, fighters to engage enemy ships and draw attention, and the main fleet to hold position and prepare for the final assault. The battle erupted suddenly, violent and overwhelming. Explosions rocked space as fleets clashed with fury. Energy beams tore through shields, and the silence of space was broken by the roar of engines and alarms. The humans fought with everything they had, but the Empire's forces were vast and desperate. In the chaos, Ilara led a small strike team aboard the Resurgent on a dangerous mission to infiltrate Aegis Prime's surface and destroy the weapon. The planet's defenses were fierce. Anti-aircraft fire, automated turrets, and armored troops awaited them. But the humans pressed on, fighting through narrow corridors and darkened halls. their every step shadowed by danger. Meanwhile, above the planet, the space battle raged. Allied ships fell, one by one, but they held their ground, buying time for the strike team below. Ilara's team finally reached the weapon's core, a massive, glowing device pulsing with energy so intense it made the air hum. It was a super weapon unlike anything they had imagined, capable of unleashing destruction across entire star systems. Without hesitation, the humans planted explosives, setting the countdown for detonation. As alarms blared, they fought their way back to the surface, the corridors collapsing around them. They barely made it to the extraction point as the weapon exploded in a brilliant flash, lighting up the planet and shattering the Empire's hold. Above, the destruction of the superweapon sent shockwaves through the Imperial fleet. Confused and leaderless, the Empire's forces faltered. The humans seized the opportunity, pushing hard and forcing the enemy into retreat. Victory was within reach. As the last enemy ships fled into the dark, the galaxy seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. The nightmare of the Empire's power had been broken. The humans and their allies had won, but the cost was high. Many ships were lost, and countless lives sacrificed. In the aftermath, the galaxy began to rebuild. Formerly oppressed worlds celebrated their newfound freedom, and the coalition that had saved the stars vowed to protect peace and justice for all. Commander Ilara, hailed as a hero, knew the war had changed them all. The darkness of tyranny had been defeated, but vigilance was needed to keep the light alive. As the Resurgent sailed into the horizon, its crew ready for whatever future awaited, one truth was clear: humanity's resilience and strength had reshaped the galaxy forever, proving that even the smallest spark can ignite the brightest flame.